Welcome to Telltale Books. I'm continuing my Robert Heinlein series, this time with Coventry. I'm skipping, in going through start to finish, I'm skipping The Roads Must Roll, which was published in June of 1940 in Astounding, because I've already done one video about The Roads Must Roll by myself, and then Emily and I did one together. So I think we've covered The Roads Must Roll enough, and it is a top tale. It's a really excellent story. Classic Robert Heinlein, always one of my favorites. So we move on 1 month forward in time to Coventry, which was published then in the July 1940 issue of Astounding Science Fiction, edited by John W. Campbell. And Coventry is Heinlein's 8th published story. And it's actually a sequel. Well, it's part of his whole Future History series. So everything that's in the Future History, which includes The Roads Must Roll and a lot of his other stories published at this point, they're in this loose Future History timeline, but very few of them are direct sequels to one another. There's just some details about what has happened that are mentioned, and some characters repeat from story to story. So Coventry is seen as kind of a sequel to If This Goes On, which Emily and I reviewed a little while ago. If This Goes On, of course, is about the rebellion against a theocratic dictatorship that develops in the future in the United States of America. So that's gone. And the United States of America has kind of become divided. You got one part, which I don't think it really states this, but I just got the feeling like the one portion of the United States was the eastern United States. And and in that portion, everything is kind of, well, psychologically regimented. Anybody that seems to be deviating from the norms psychologically, they're taken into court. Like if somebody gets into a fight and harms somebody else, they're tried in court, and if found guilty, they're given the choice of either psychological reconditioning to eliminate their violent tendencies, or abolishment to Coventry. Now, Coventry is the other half of the United States, which, like I say, feels like the Western United States, but that may just be psychological for me, because you always think of the West as being a little more wild and a little more rugged individualist. And that's what the main character, David McKinnon, thinks when he is sentenced to and given this choice. He chooses to go to Coventry because he thinks there it'll be rugged individualism. He'll be able to grab his plot of land and live by himself, and everything. It's going to be an individualist paradise. So he chooses that, and he goes to Coventry, but he finds out Coventry is actually divided into 3 areas. One area is governed by a democracy, but that democracy basically tax the crap out of you. The moment David McKinnon goes into Coventry, he's in this democratic state, and they right away seize half of his possessions as a fee. And when he complains about this, they say, well, you can go to court and contest it. And so he does. And so he says how this isn't fair for them to take half of his stuff, and the judge says, wrong, we're going to take the other half. So he's basically screwed. He has nothing. and he's thrown in jail for mouthing off to the judge. Well, there's a second state in Coventry that has become a complete dictatorship. It's run by one guy, and you get killed if you defy his rules. And the third state in Coventry is a theocracy where they pretty much leave you alone, except that they're constantly preaching to you and trying to convert you to their religion. So I won't give details of how it plays out because it is an interesting story and you probably want to read that for yourself. But what's interesting about this story is the politics. This is a political story. It's all about politics. You can see here how Heinlein has 4 extremes of government, and none of them are good. And, well, in the end, the choice that Dave McKinnon makes sense in the story, but kind of goes against what we know of Heinlein being a libertarian. You know, Heinlein is one of these rugged individualists. I don't think he was as bad as Ayn Rand. As a matter of fact, I think his libertarian was not so much extreme individualism as it was just wanting a rational society, just wanting people to use some common sense, you know, and do things rationally and scientifically, which we don't have a party for that. You know, so it was just interesting, though, how Heinlein wrapped this story up. It kind of goes against what we know of his politics. So I wouldn't call this a great story, but it is an interesting story. It's well written. Dave McKinnon is a good character. There are some other interesting characters along the way that he meets who help him. And the ideas in the story are interesting, although, I mean, Heinlein shows the extremes of government. It's kind of like all the worst extremes that you can see in our society are made to embody each of these government forms. And in reality, our government is a little bit of each of these, which is not always good, but it's never as bad as what you see in Coventry. So who should read this? Anybody that loves Golden Age science fiction, I would recommend this to. And of course, anybody that's a diehard Heinlein fan, I would recommend this too. It's a good story, not a great story. Worth reading, though. And it's a well-written story. Heinlein was one of the best writers of the 1940s, with good characters and good plots. Just this one gets a little overly political. Might be a little hard for people today to stomach on that aspect, but oh well. So that's Coventry. The next story, number 9, will be Blow Ups Happen, or Magic Incorporated. Those two were published in the same month. Not sure which one's really next. Yeah, it looks like Blow Ups Happen. And I hope you'll come back and join me for that. Until then, like this video, subscribe to this video, leave comments. I want to hear what you think. And tell me your ideas about Coventry. I'm not a professor. I'm interested in hearing all the different readers' thoughts about this. So leave it in the comment section of the video, and come on back for more. I will be here in the next video.